What's new? It's starting to get super hot, and I'm gonna bang out a few videos right here today before it gets like unbearably hot because it's supposed to be like hot as hell in the next 4 or 5 days here. So I'm gonna pump out some videos, and I'm not gonna show every single record I have from this album, but I do want to talk about it. I've had it on deck for a long time. I do not have. I'm not going to show the 12 inches that go with this record. They're buried. Honestly, I don't know where they are. There are three singles that came from this album, by the way, and I will talk about those. Sorry, I'm not going to show them. I don't know where they are. I know I have them in my collection somewhere, but they're not readily available. So, but I know them. I'll talk about them, but no visual aids on the 12 inches today. I apologize for that. But yeah, I want to bang out these videos before it gets like a million degrees. You know what I'm saying? Because yeah, I don't want to be sitting in my unair conditioned house doing fucking videos when it's 110 degrees outside. But I'm talking about this today. Let me take this out of the sleeve here so there's no glare. Sorry about that. Ministry. Every time I talk about anything to do with Al Jourgensen, you guys start scurrying around like a swarm of bees, man. So, and I appreciate it, but it's like this is where it's at with my channel, man. Anytime I talk about anything Al Jourgensen related, you guys pull your pants down and start touching yourselves. So, hey, whatever gets you off, I'll do it. Al Jourgensen, Ministry, Psalm 69. Here it is. The Way to Succeed or The Way to Suck Eggs, the unofficial title. This is a very good album. This is the bridge album. You know what I'm talking about? I thought you did. Every long standing band that has a long history, like Ministry does, they have that album. That album where they're sort of ditching the past and embracing the new. And this is that album. I don't think there's any argument about this. Psalm 69 is the album where they changed. Ministry and Al had a different vision in mind for this group. Al always wanted to make music that was techno metal or whatever, but then this is the album he just decided he wanted to make straight up metal. Filth Pig is sort of like this. I think Filth Pig is a better album than this. Filth Pig has grown on me in a huge way, and I'll talk about that at some point. I try to space out my Al albums, you know? There's a lot to talk about with him. But this is the record where he threw the past away. He was no longer interested in the techno metal thing, and he seemed to be only interested in metal. It's metal that only Al could produce. It only sounds there's no other metal that sounds like Al's metal. But this is where it started happening. You still get some of the tastes of that old Ministry here, but he was definitely shifting in a new direction. He was going another way, for sure. I very much enjoy this album. I do feel this album is far from Al's best. Excuse me. And it's this album is a tale of two sounds, really. There are two versions of Ministry going on with this record, and it's never really worked for me as a full album. There are brilliant moments on this album, chiefly the singles, really. The three singles from this album are some of Ministry's best work, man. They're most powerful, they're most intense, and I can certify that this is true, man. I saw them on this tour. I've talked about it before in past videos. I saw them in Seattle, Washington. Was it 90? I don't remember. It was December of 91 or December of 92. This album came out in 91. It was to this day the greatest concert I've ever seen. It was the most intense experience I've ever had at a live show. It was crazy. Seattle in 92. Think about that. Or 91, whatever year it was. I don't remember. But that was the it was grunge time in Seattle. They literally pulled out members of Nirvana and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam to play live with these songs. I'll never forget it. It seemed like the city of Seattle melted down. It was an energy that I have never experienced. To this day, the most intense live experience I've ever seen in my life. It was crazy, man. Eddie Vedder came out and sang on Breathe. Crowd exploded. And the bands that opened for them were Helmet and Sepultura. Imagine that trio. It was crazy. The most intense mosh pit I'd ever seen. I remember at the end of the show, I had blood all over me. I didn't know if it was mine. I didn't know whose blood it belonged to. I just knew I was covered in blood. Now that's a fucking concert. Am I right? When you leave the show and you're covered in blood and you don't know if it's your own, that's a proper show. And man, was it fun. I remember they passed me up on top of I got on top of the pit and they were passing me around like a fucking joint. And the song that was playing, Stigmata. I mean, what better song to be passed around in the pit? And it was it was at the part where Al was going, fuck you, fuck me, fuck Mary, fuck Jesus. That's when I was getting passed around. I mean, I'll never forget it. How do you forget that, man? It was an amazing experience, a great show. Anyway, back to Psalm 69. Oh, and who's Dave Grohl came out. I don't remember the name. I don't remember the song that he played. He played on. But Dave Grohl came out to play drums. Kim Thale of Soundgarden came out to play. I don't remember the song. Was anybody there? If you're watching this video and you saw these guys on this tour in Seattle, Washington, I know it was in December. The year, I don't remember, man. I'm sorry. It was 91 or 92. I don't know. Insane. Just unreal. I would love to comment, have a little chat with anybody who was at that show. Man, yeah. Special stuff. But this album, it's good. But you have to remember that the albums that came out before this, Twitch, Land of Rape and Honey, Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste, Beer, Steers, and Queers. You know, everything that Al did in album form up to this was stellar, was crazy, off the chain, insanely good. This was the first time there was a chink in Al's armor, in my opinion. This was the first time I remember thinking, oh, okay, Al is human after all. I never really appreciated this album. I still give it, if I were to rate it out of 5 stars, I'd give it a good 3.5. You know, it's not terrible. The strength of the singles buoys this album. It keeps it afloat. The rest of the tracks are okay. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of people who watch this video and they think it's the greatest thing Ministry ever did. It was the first album you ever heard from Ministry. It changed your life. You saw them at Lollapalooza, blah, 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 blah. I know. For those of us who were into this group before this was not their best album. It just wasn't, and it still isn't. Now the singles, absolutely. NWO, that was the lead-off single, and that was a kick-ass song. It still is. That was a great old-style Ministry song, but being updated to that new metal sound. Just crunching guitars, and Al's vocals are perfect, and a great single, really. New World Order. And the single's pretty good. It has a B-side called Fucked on it, which is a pretty good song, honestly. I would actually say Fucked is better than a couple of songs on here. The remix is... Actually, the name of the single, this is one of the reasons I didn't want to dig the 12 inches out. I have a single, it's just a white cover. It's called Mix It Yourself. That's the name of the single. It was a promo only. But it has a couple of remixes of NWO, which are not great. And then it has Fucked. Good single. The song itself, the best version is here on the album. The other singles, Just One Fix, That's a pretty. The remixes are okay. They're just more extended versions. I wouldn't call them remixes. They're extended edits. There is one version called Quick Fix that heavily features William Burroughs vocals. He does vocals. He grumbles over the top. He doesn't sing, but Burroughs is on there, and he's really featured on that Quick Fix version. I would recommend picking up the Just One Fix 12-inch. It's pretty cool. It only came out in Germany, at least the one I have. I never saw. Same with the NWO, actually. I never saw a US release for those. I think, yeah, I think both versions actually are German. Now that I think about it, they're both German 12 inches. So you might have a hard time finding those. I don't know. But they're just remixes. How important are remixes to you? You do get fucked on the NWO single, but Just One Fix only has remixes. And then the one single I do think is required for this is Jesus Built My Hot Rod. Actually, that was the lead-off single. That came out a good year before, though. That was out for a long time before the album dropped. And the Red Line, White Line version is the one you want. Much better than the album version. And it's got a remix of TV Song on the B-side, which is super cool. But the long version of Jesus Built My Hot Rod is fantastic. You have some really awesome samples of Blue Velvet. Let's hit the fucking road. That's Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet. And then the other one, what's the name of? Is it Wise Blood? I think that's the name of the movie. It's a John Huston movie. That extended vocal sample you hear in the beginning, where I come a long way, rah, rah. You know what I'm talking about. That vocal, the dude's voice. What are you talking about? That's Brad Dourif, and I think the movie's called Wise Blood. The word blood's in there somewhere. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the movie. I've only seen it a few times. It's okay. It's a John Huston movie, but that's Brad Dourif. You know Brad Dourif, Billy Bibbit, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He played Wormtongue in the Lord of the Rings movies. Brad Dourif. He plays Chucky in Child's Play. A brilliant actor. That's his voice you're hearing. What are you talking about? Was never there. That's Brad Dourif. Check that movie out. It's fun. I'd never seen it until recently, and then I watched the movie and I was like, oh my God, there's the voice. I love that when it comes to sampling. You have years go by and you don't know what this sample is, and then you finally see the movie and you're like, oh, there it is. So those are the three singles from this record, and those are the best songs on here. The rest of the songs, this is where Al started really missing Paul Barker. I mentioned this in a previous Ministry video, but I talked about this in the Lard video. Al has no ear for bass. It's like he has no interest in having bass on his records anymore. And it started here. Very tinny, a big emphasis on the highs. And it started to rear its ugly head on this album, like Scarecrow. Scarecrow is actually a pretty good song, but I don't like the production. It's all mids and highs. Where's the fucking bass, man? Come on. There is bass there, but it's kind of buried in the mix. You pull it out, man. We want to hear it. If Ministry could, or Al, I should say, if Al could figure out where the bass guitar is again, he'd be in business. But his records are just not produced well. The bass is always really buried. I don't know if it's because he's deaf or I don't know. It's odd. Here's the inner sleeve. This is a European press. I'm pretty sure they've reissued this since. This did not get released in the US, to my knowledge, at the time. I'm pretty sure it's owned by Warner now, and Rhino's probably pumped out a bunch of shitty reissues of this. But this is the original Euro press. I would not recommend you pick up anything on Rhino. I've had extremely spotty results with any reissue I've ever bought from Rhino. They're just pumping out product. Rhino's owned by Warner Brothers, by the way. It's kind of like music on vinyl. If you've ever bought a music on vinyl pressing, not good. And they're owned by Sony. So yeah, these companies are they're trying to capitalize on this vinyl boom that's been happening over the past 15 years. They're just pumping out shitty product. They don't care what it sounds like. They don't care if it's a high quality product. Doesn't matter. They just want to put records on record shelves and that's it. They don't care if the pressing's good. If you like this record and you want it on vinyl, I'd highly recommend you get this original Euro press. It does sound pretty good. In fairness, I haven't heard the reissues, but Rhino put them out. All right. If you have the Rhino reissue and you like it, I'd love leave a comment if I'm wrong about that, but I wouldn't get it. I don't know. But Psalm 69, what do you think about this one? Not my favorite ministry. This was the beginning of a huge downward trajectory for Al. Brilliant moments on here. There are 3 songs that are phenomenal. And TV songs good too. There's TV, what is this? TV2. A different version than you find on the Jesus Built My Hot Rod 12-inch. That's a pretty cool song. Hero, Psalm 69, Corrosion. Those are okay. In my opinion, this is my opinion. Remember, if you love this album, cool. I don't. And quite honestly, Filth Pig is better than this, I think. Filth Pig is just a more fluid album. This album sounds like a bunch of songs just kind of plucked out and pasted onto a piece of paper. There's no flow to this, really. And that's something Ministry always had. Land of Rape and Honey, Twitch. There was a real uniform sound to those records. Not really here. This sounds like there are 3 singles and then there are some songs kind of scrapped together. Doesn't really have much uniformity, not to my ears. And the production, yeah, he started changing that up. He definitely does that production style on Filth Pig, but that album is pretty heavy. I've really grown to love Filth Pig more than this. I think as a whole, it works better as an album. It works better than this one. These are just opinions, people. I'm sure there are plenty of you out there that worship Psalm 69. And this was the beginning of a lot of people's fandom when it comes to Al Jourgensen. This was a lot of people's entry points. So I understand this is going to be a lot of people's favorite album. But I think those of us who were paying attention in the 80s and had those records and were listening to them already, this was a letdown, right? I don't think I'm being out of order saying that. This was a disappointment. For Al, this would have been a brilliant album for anybody else, but we're talking about Al. We held Al to higher standards. This guy was a genius. In the 80s, every fucking thing this guy did, we were obsessed with. He could have released an album of him farting for 45 minutes and we would have bought it and loved it. I mean, the guy just couldn't do anything wrong at that point. We loved this guy. So when this came out, it was like, oh, something's shifting, something's changing. I don't know if I like it. If you disagree, that's cool. Let me know about it. We'll have a respectful conversation about it. Not for me, though. Psalm 69, Al Jourgensen. He would go and never really return after the production of this album. I think that's part of why I'm disappointed with Al's music of the last 25 years. Al changed, he was like a chameleon. That was part of what I liked about the guy. He did With Sympathy, and then he did Twitch, and then he did Land of Rape and Honey, and then he did Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste. There was a real exciting progression going on there. It was all sort of steeped in the same energy, but it was different. Like he kept evolving. And then this landed and he never changed his sound. It's just kind of all, everything he's done since here has been all the same. Come on, Al, break out of your funk here. Do something different. Do a country record. Do a full-on Buck Satan album like you've always been threatening to do. Do something. This sounds tired, man. And that's why I don't really like any recent Ministry albums. I just think it's tired. It's a tired sound. He's been milking a tired old anecdote for too long. Anecdote. I'll learn how to say that word someday. I hope you liked this video. The videos where I am critical about bands that people love, I get more thumbs down on those videos than any of my others. And I know I'll get thumbs down on this. I don't care. People, it's funny to me, people just don't want anything critical being said about albums they love. Not everyone can like everything. It's not possible. Open up your mind a little bit and accept some criticism about the shit you like. We can all learn something from that. And what I've learned is that Al is human. He is human after all. I still love him. I'll always love Al. We all will. Uncle Al. He is ours for the taking. Listen to this album again. Maybe you'll like it more. I like it less as time goes on. Until next time.